Look, babies, in the world of media, there is really nobody in the world who does more awesome headlines than the British. And especially, I think, you think of their tabloids, which are just, so good. But they can even manage to talk about things like Compost in a way that just almost brings tears of joy to my eyes. Just as a way of introducing today's guests, I'm going to read a few of the incredibly good headlines that have been written about them from the Times, April 13th, 2023. Posh Compost, that's entry level. And again from the Times, luxury manures, sweet smell of success. And then the Guardian, 20 pounds for a tiny bag of poo? What really goes into luxury compost? So, don't be put off by this idea of luxury compost because my guests today are actually quite down to earth, no pun intended. Today, we are speaking with the land gardeners. The land gardeners are two incredible women, Bridget and Henrietta, who are former lawyers. I believe they're called barristers in the UK, and they came together over a love of soil and a hopeful vision for the future. They are extraordinary people, but I have to tell you, if you follow gardening. And I do. I obsessively do because it's such a beautiful thing. They are known worldwide for producing some of the most extraordinary landscapes, but also just their cut flowers are coveted. You can see them clutched in the hands of royals and in the glossy magazines and things like that. But these ladies are doing a lot more, and we're going to get to that today. The mission of the land gardeners is to work with gardeners and farmers to improve the health of our land, creating beautiful, healthy plants, gardens, and farms brimming with biodiversity and life, all founded on healthy soil. We design productive gardens, wild, romantic, and joyful, and restore walled and historic gardens in England, France, Italy, New Zealand, and Zimbabwe. We grow organic English cut flowers, and we also run workshops exploring healthy plants, healthy soils, and biodiverse living gardens. Those are the words of Bridget and Henrietta, who founded the Land Gardeners. And I gotta say, if you look at their website, it really is sort of like a dream job that they've built for themselves because they just make beautiful things happen all over the place, just like so many of you. So without further delay, I'm going to hand it to somebody who's going to talk about one of our awesome sponsors. And then we're going to get into the dirt with Henrietta and Bridget.
Today's episode of the No-Till Market Garden Podcast is brought to you by Local Line. Get ahead this year with Local Line. Make the switch to Local Line and grow your farm to new heights. Local Line is the most comprehensive sales software built for farmers and food hubs. Increase your sales and streamline your process with features including e-commerce, inventory management, subscriptions, website builder, online payments, point of sale, and more. Trusted by thousands of farmers around the world, Local Line is the platform you need to take your farm to the next level. Subscriptions start as low as $49 a month, and Local Line never takes a percentage of your sales. Try Local Line today and receive a free premium feature for 1 year using our coupon code NOTILL. That's all caps, all one word, NOTILL. Today's episode is also brought to you by Farmhand. Tired of admin work and technology trouble? You need Farmhand on your team. Farmhand is the all-in-one software platform and virtual assistant built by and for independent farmers. Through a simple text or email to Farmhand, you can instantly offload admin tasks, automate your CSA, update your website, and sell more to your customers. With zero startup costs or long-term commitments, farmers are reporting an average of 6+ hours in time savings and 20% in sales growth each week. Learn more and take the quiz to see how much you can save by partnering with Farmhand at farmhand.partners/no-till. That's farmhand. renown.partners/no-till. All right, enjoy the show.
Well, Bridget, Henrietta, welcome to the No-Till Market Gardeners podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I know you just got back from New Zealand and very excited to hear about that trip. But please, if you wouldn't mind, introduce yourselves. Tell us where you are, where you work, what you do, and why you do it. Tell us everything about the Land Gardeners.
Oh, thanks, Mimi. Well, at the moment, we're in London together in our studio with a tiny little puppy called Frank. So if you hear any funny noises, that's who's making them.
Yes, he's only 9.5 weeks old, so he's scootling around beneath our feet, but he's now part of the team.
Anyway, so we're in London at the moment, but we do move a lot. As you said, we've just got back from New Zealand and Australia, where we've spent the last month going around talking to different farmers and growers, both in Australia and New Zealand, and looking at different ways that they're managing the soils in different environments, looking at composters, farmers, and now we're back in London for a week. And then one of us is off to France, where we're our cut flower businesses. We've got a cut flower business used to be in Oxfordshire in England, and it's gone to France. So it's quite complicated, our lives. And then one of us is off to Cornwall, where we have some other experiments going on down there. And golly, if that's not enough, we have some compost trials in the middle of England. So
yeah,
wow.
So soil health really is our thing at the Land Gardeners. We set it up about 12 years ago, and both came together because we were so really interested in soil health. And as Bridget said, we've got our cut flower garden now in France, but that was in the UK. We were doing that in Oxfordshire in England and growing organic cut flowers. And it was really getting our hands into the soil, growing every day. That through that was the beginning of our journey researching what's now become a total obsession, which is soil and compost.
We both started off as lawyers, funnily enough, and then we became garden designers. And we decided partway through that that we wanted something. There was something more that we wanted rather than just very beautiful gardens. We wanted to learn more about how those gardens grew, and also we were very interested. Actually, it did actually begin with us being very interested in how to heal farms, so slightly, and then we decided that was such a big take on. And one of the farms that we wanted to heal was sort of about 10,000 acres. So we thought, oh golly, that's way too much for us. Let's start at the very beginning and see how to heal soil on a small patch. And that small patch happened to be in Oxfordshire, about 16 acres. It became a horticultural unit, and we started, going around the place, around England, around the world, interviewing people doing composting and making potions, and went on all sorts of adventures.
We did, and I think it's because soil is one of the great sort of so you sort of open this door into this world, and then you become totally obsessed because it's just so fascinating, and even scientists don't know a lot about it. So the more we discovered, the more we wanted to learn.
Yeah, and when I was talking about the whole farm and healing the farm, that was from a sort of climate point of view. We realized that, I think it was about 2001 that we realized that, that whole climate issue was seriously bad, and it was almost cripplingly bad when we, that first in our little way, do something to combat it. And we decided our way was going to be with soil and healing it, first at a small scale. Then about 3 years ago, we moved from Oxfordshire when we decided to jump the wall and jump into farming. And we've been working on an estate in central England, coming up, trying to work out how to implement what we'd discovered at a garden or a horticultural scale into a first of all, we started at 250 acres, and now I think we're up to about 3,000. So we're getting near the 10,000 acre mark. So we're
on our way.
But still lots and lots and lots and lots of things to discover and learn.
That's beautiful. I think there's so many interesting things there, but one of the things I don't want to brush over is, so you were lawyers, and then poof, all of a sudden we're going to be garden. I mean, what was there a set of conversations where you both realized that you wanted to have, how did that happen?
Well, that was completely separate. We were on other sides of the world at that point.
Wow.
And we hadn't even met. It's when we were both lawyers and both decided to so that was only later when we did meet, and that was because our children were at nursery school together. And then we realized we'd had so much of this sort of shared background in common. And yes, I mean, for me, it went from one day being a lawyer on a Friday to on a Monday working in a plant nursery, potting up plants, much to my father's dismay. But he now realizes that he was wrong, and he could see that there was so much of interest.
Yeah. Wow. What an amazing journey. And what do you think it was? I mean, for both of you independently working in different parts of the world, what was it? Was it something that you felt like you were missing in the work that you were doing, or was it just you were feeling really drawn to work with your hands? Or
well, I think the big thing was this whole climate thing was at that point really banging in our heads, thinking, come on, we can create lots of beautiful gardens, but actually there's something more to be done. And how can we marry our real passion for beauty actually with this very practical need to try and see if we could do something, even on a small scale, to help the climate. And when we came together and tried to decide, what we really wanted to do, we sat down on, one of those cafe tables with paper on it, scribbling all over it, we call it, and writing on the tablecloth all the things that we wanted to achieve. So obviously one of the things was something that was going to be beneficial to the climate. Another thing was something that was going to also contain beauty. Another thing is it had to contain fun. And a big part of designing gardens is, it's great. You could go into a really beautiful garden and it's designed very beautifully, but somehow you come away feeling quite flat. And part of that is because, and we sort of delved into that, but part of that is because there's no life happening. So it can look good, but it doesn't feel good. So really another part of that equation was that, whatever we did had to feel good. And part of that was coming from the health of the soil, the health of the plants, and then comes in all the birds and the bees and that feeling and buzz and energy that you get when you're in a situation where the soil's alive, then your gardens are alive.
I'm so glad you bring that up, because I think there is really no more obvious place to feel it than when you are in a landscaped garden. But it's also true on farms where you can go into a very productive farm and usually, it's being fed somehow, right? And that feeling of being in a breathing organism versus being in a picture of something that is mimicking that is such a profound realization. And it's one of the things I think that really turns people on to this curiosity that we all have, but it's like there are fewer and fewer places to experience that feeling of being a part of a, and I think that's a beautiful, that's a beautiful statement.
Funny enough, we've just finished, and actually it's called Kale Springs. Someone called Steve and Jenny Erickson live there, and he's American and has lived in New Zealand for probably 20 years. But literally when you drive into their farm, you literally, and this is going to sound a bit crazy, but you feel like you've driven somewhere on the way to heaven, because it's so vibrant and so alive. It almost felt surreal. And
it did. It was the most incredible feeling, and so beautiful. And as Bridget said, that is what real beauty is. Coanga. We had exactly the same feeling. You drive in there and you can feel that earth humming, and you can feel that life that then comes up through those plants. I mean, she's done the most amazing forest garden, mixing. It's so beautiful, mixing in roses with fruit trees, with shrubs,
willows that she coppices for feeding the soil, and it's sort of like 60%, fruit or nut trees, and 40% support plants, plus ducks and geese underneath. That way, and I mean, it was absolutely magical. And I think that when you achieve that sort of that balance and that sort of synergy, either whether if it's with design and planting or on a farmscape, you know when you feel it, and equally, there's nothing more depressing than being in a beautiful landscape that doesn't feel alive. There's something that's not right.
Totally. And so we've brushed on it a little bit, but I'd love to get deeper into it, because you both are, among other things, compost crews, what you're doing with the land gardeners. So tell us about that part of your work, and what, how is your approach unique, and what are you doing with that as you move forward with your kind of unique business model?
Well, we are so keen to our aim is to get chemicals off the soil, off the land, and really to empower farmers to use their own waste to feed their soils.
And growers.
And gardeners. I mean, we can all do it, whether it's a small garden, exactly right, whether you've got a little pot on a terrace or whether you've got a huge farm. If you can use your own waste and not turn to chemicals, it will make the most huge difference to the soil, to our water systems, to our biodiversity. And so for us, we started with aerobic composting. We found these wonderful soil scientists in Austria called the Lukas, Angelica and Urs Hildebrand, and their parents had actually learnt from Pfeiffer, who in turn had learnt from Steiner. And so that's where we've begun, and that's a method of making compost where you can make it within 8 to 12 weeks. It's fast. You turn it with a machine. You use the usual suspects of ingredients on the farm. So
and all on the farm or the garden or your neighbour's garden. That's the thing. I mean, it's about what you've got to hand, but also it might be what is down the road. Whether there's some seaweed or whether the neighbour has some straw and you swap it out for some muck, or somebody has geese down the road and you've got chickens and you swap that. So it's all about getting as much diversity into your compost pile, just that the more we eat, the better our microbiome in our stomach is. So it's very similar to that with the compost. Probably the big key with the compost is not only is it aerobic, but it humifies within that time, which means that the compost doesn't feel sort of light and fluffy. It actually feels like sort of sticky soil. It's quite an unusual thing, and it's because it's humified. You get all those little sticky juices that come with microlife living and dying and breeding and doing whatever they're doing and decomposing. And when you touch it and feel it, there's a sort of a brown humic acid is in it, and it feels and it smells like sort of the forest floor. And that seems to be when we go around these various people that we've been visiting who are making compost with this method, it really seems to be the key for sort of preparing extracts for feeding soil. So a lot of people are using it on their own, but a lot of people are adding different things to it, whether it's minerals or comfrey teas or nettle teas or whatever they're trying to do. And they add it in with this humified compost as a base. And it seems to be the key for feeding the plant. And
yes, and that I'm sure your listeners are all aware of that incredible symbiotic relationship between the plant and the soil, between the roots, because it's of course, that, it's that energy that's coming down from the sun that's then being fed down through the plant. Those sugars are actually going out to feed the microbes and the fungi. And so, as Bridget said, it's that humification really that gets your microbes working again. It reboots that biology. And then we follow that often with green manures, with cover crops, so that the combination of compost and cover crops is really really the secret to one of the secrets to rebooting your soil.
And then for adding sort of various compost teas or extracts, that's during the growing season, we find that's brilliant as well. And there's definitely something, I mean, the real key for and we tried all sorts of things not to use clay, because sometimes it's a bit of a pain trying to find it. But actually that really is the key. And the more we've, the more year after year, the more we do it, the more we realize that probably is something that not everybody's using in their compost, and something that people should think about. We do it with this hot composting aerobic sort of 6 to 8 week method, but we also, as we mentioned before, Kay Baxter from the Coanga Institute in New Zealand, that's someone you really need to talk to. She's incredible. She's one of our soil heroes. She does this, what we call a compost cake, or she calls a compost cake, and she layers a lot of these ingredients, making it higher in carbon so that it doesn't get so hot, so you don't need to turn it. So that takes about 4 to 6 months to work, and it starts to humify, and at the end it gets quite small, but inside is this very rich humified sort of center that is brilliant to use as just an inoculum. So this is not compost that you're putting on super thick on your garden. This is just a little bit that you're putting a little bit, just a pinch under your seedlings or in your potting mix, and it's a little bit like how people use mycorrhizal fungi, rather than sway like big things of compost. And I suppose actually, because you guys are doing a lot of no dig, a lot of that is that sort of more mulching with compost. The method we're using and the compost that we're making is the compost you want to get right in the ground, because it likes to be down and deep and not sitting on the top.
And kept alive. Yeah.
And they're also really fun to make, aren't they? After a sort of big week in the garden, or when you've been growing and you bring in your weeds and you gather you gather some wood chips, you gather various ingredients that you can bring together, and then we have a morning making these cakes, and then they sit 6 months. You don't need to turn them, so it's really easy. And then 6 months later, you come and you open them up, and you have this wonderful compost inside.
And for anyone interested in how to do one of these cakes, I mean, it's not particularly difficult, but we've just published a book actually with Thames and Hudson in the US and Australia, New Zealand, and it will be coming out in England in April 2024. But it's called Soil to Table, and there's a very detailed guide about how to what you can put in your compost and how to do it. Because one of the biggest things we're trying to do is empower people to be able to do this themselves. Brilliant. If they can't, we are making it in the UK and selling it, but our biggest pleasure is if people do it themselves.
Yes, the goal is to infect everyone with their own knowledge, which I love.
I have to say we have also can buy online on how to heal your soils. I mean, we say that reluctantly, only because it's always awful when you hear yourself or see yourself. But anyway, for those who really want to learn more, that's worth looking into too.
We will definitely link to your all of your things, because you guys have more than a few workshops online, and they're wonderful and beautiful also. I mean, I think that one of the reasons I wanted to speak to the two of you is just your penchant for the lovely and the beautiful, and I think that really makes a big difference in terms of what draws people in.
Today's episode of the No-Till Market Garden podcast is brought to you by Arnois Greenhouses. For more than 55 years, Arnois Greenhouses has led the way in controlled environment agriculture innovation, partnering with market gardeners and farmers across North America to deliver comprehensive commercial greenhouse solutions. Their mission is clear and steadfast: to pioneer a greener, more resilient future for agriculture. At the heart of their success is a commitment to their community of producers with extensive expertise in design, manufacturing, and installation. Arnois Greenhouses provides the best greenhouse solutions to the grower across North America. Their greenhouses are engineered to face any North American climate, ensuring unparalleled brightness, agronomic performance, faster return on investment, and lasting durability. They're not just building greenhouses, they're creating energy-efficient ecosystems that promote sustainable and profitable agricultural practices. With over 20,000 projects to their name, they're more than a manufacturer, they're a partner. For the initial design to the final installation, Arnois Greenhouses is with you at every step, guaranteeing the success of your venture. Arnois Greenhouses, leader in turnkey solutions for local growers. All right, back to the show.
And so I'd like to kind of get into that a little bit, because I think it just, and not to offend anyone, but as a generality in farming and in market gardening, design usually isn't the first consideration. Not necessarily given a lot of attention. A lot of farmers don't consider themselves to be particularly talented gardeners, and you're designers. And one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to, speak with you is that I really do believe ranges itself, and that those patterns and forms are just maximizing energetic flows into the landscape. And so if you could just speak to your philosophy around the role of beauty and form in our, not just our natural systems, but our managed systems, and how that really does facilitate the bringing of life, and how those things are related, and how you think about it.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, basically,
It's really central to us, isn't it?
yeah, it's for us, and it's so integral to how we even function that. So I suppose often it's taking things away. So, like if we think about clients, if we're going to somebody's garden, and we start with taking away things that aren't energetically beautiful. And then it's about adding things in. But a lot of the time, we like to work with whoever. We're not one of those sort of designers that go in and just impose our sense of beauty. One thing we love to do is to get our clients to photograph. We said, before we see you, you've got to have a whole month of photographing anything that makes your heart sing, or makes you really, really happy. What do you find beautiful? And we want them to photograph everything from flowers and gardens, but to, I don't know, teacups, tables, colors, pajamas, anything they like, anything that makes them really happy. And there's really strange. I mean, anyone that's listening should try and do it, and get your partner to do it as well, because if you do take a series of pictures, don't think about them too much, then put them into a folder and then go through them all, you'll see, somehow you get to see a pattern of how people think and feel about their surroundings. And it's so fascinating. It's a whole language, and it's a language that often it takes a long time to find. Some of you will go to nurseries and you'll think, oh, I like that flower, I like that, or I like this. And you're not quite sure, and you bring them back and they don't quite sit in your garden, because every garden is different. And some gardens and houses have certain feelings and styles. And even if you like a certain plant, it may not work there. So by doing this thing of really finding out what makes what you absolutely love, then then everything else flows, because things, you start to see patterns, whether you like ordered straight lines, or whether you like a lyrical sort of dancing, random whatever. It's that's sort of how we work with clients. We did this together, actually. We both did our sort of mood boards, really, about what we love, and then chose from each other's mood board what would be our joint land gardening board.
Yes.
And weirdly now we're so sort of entwined. It's sort of we finish each other's sentences. We know exactly what the other one's going to like. So that's sort of more on a garden and a personal scale. And then on a farm scale, it's about really about the feeling of how it feels with shelter and shade and sort of hedgerows, and is there enough places for animals to be sheltered from the sun or winds, and then is there lots of things for them to eat? Is there a real selection of foods for them? So is there so you think about mixing up your pastures and having mixed herbal lays and
beautiful mixed hedgerows,
with roses and hips, and is there food right through the season? So does it get to autumn, and what is there for the birds to eat? And
and it's that thing of actually beauty feeds our soul, and we need that. We all as humans need that. We've got a really exciting project at the moment. We're actually going to be doing an exhibition on soil, an art exhibition. So that's really
wonderful.
Lovely, because we've been looking at the world of, as Bridget says, what we're doing in gardens and beauty in gardens, but also beyond that, looking at artworks and looking at all these artworks and really building a story of what is the wonder of soil, what have we done to it, and actually how it really can provide this feeling of hope for us all. So that is in 2025 in London.
Yeah,
so
and hopefully it might travel. There's murmurs around the world of different cities that would quite like to have it. So really that's a celebration of soil and beauty. And funny, one of the things we said to the gallery, we said, but this is not going to be like a science experiment and all brown. We want to have beauty. We need to have soil, but we also need to have what grows in the soil. And we want flowers, and we want trees, and we also want to represent, the sun and moon, and also the energetic patterns from the universe coming through. So one can see that often things that are happening in the universe is stimulates life in the soil and things, energy and things flow backwards between them, back and forth. So suddenly the exhibition has gone from what they considered was going to be just soil to something far greater with and the whole energy part is proven to be probably the most interesting, but probably the least looked at.
So interesting. Yeah, we're discovering these amazing artists that actually quite a lot of women, actually. I mean, of course, there was Rudolf Steiner and his whole biodynamics and all he believed in energy. But there are other wonderful ones, Hilma Klint to Emma Kuntz. They were all looking at this link between energy and humanity and the planet.
And the energetic patterns of plants as well. And the link to planetary things. So all of that all sounds a bit hooty-goody, but actually
it works.
It works. And the more that we've been growing biodynamically for the last sort of probably 14, 15 years. And even though it's hard to explain all of it, it's incredibly powerful, and it absolutely works. So I think it's really interesting now, sort of studying it for this art exhibition, to really try and wrap our brains about what's going on, reading lots of different people, and you're starting to realize there is a lot of science that can be linked to it as well.
Yes,
for sure. Yeah,
we had this wonderful conversation in New Zealand, didn't we? Where we were talking with Steve from Kale Springs, and he said the past was about chemistry in the soil, the present is about biology, but the future is about the physics of the soil.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I don't say this very often, but I think that for me at least, biology was where physics and chemistry really came, that these rules of physics and chemistry, which it does, but it does it in so many unpredictable ways that it's where we go to lose any sense of being able to know anything and just be careful and patient observers and students of this fractally scaled, beautiful arrangement of things. And it does work. It works every single time. And it's such a thing to behold at every scale, I think. And what I love about this idea of an art exhibition, because I've actually fantasized about doing something like this with various forms of visual art, where what does soil sound like? What would the music be? What do the dances look like? Because we do interact with soil every single day, but we don't interact with soil every single day. And I think it's such a gift to be able to give some people who would not otherwise think about it a new way, or many new ways to think about it. So that will be something to look for. I would even try to go to London to see that.
You need to be curating the American version of it.
Oh yes, I would be. That would be a dream. I noticed that you guys you have lots of different projects in different parts of the world. Has this grown kind of organically, or have you always had a vision of getting to this place where you're jet setting around the globe and visiting farms? Or
I think because I'm a Kiwi, so I'm from New Zealand, and so I think that's part of me. Whether even though I hate flying, part of me that is that I'm always going to be drawn back to that part of the world, and have always been interested in and connected into people there that are doing incredible things.
But actually, I mean, it's certainly true that we really want to share. I mean, so many people are doing such great things, and we want to share those stories. Really, I mean, in the States, there are people right at the cutting edge of this. So I suppose one of our roles that we see is sharing some of these stories, because everyone is very busy and they're very busy in their own spot. And sometimes we even come across people who are quite protective of their way and say, this is the only way, but there isn't a silver bullet. We've spoken about aerobic compost, but, there's bokashi, there's Johnson Sioux, there's vermicast, Korean natural farming. They all have their place. So the more that we can learn and make it easy for growers and farmers to see what people are doing at different places around the world in their countries.
And that's part of what we're doing. What we're doing at Althorpe is looking at different methods of feeding your soil, and trying to develop toolkits for farmers so that they can choose what would suit their farming method, or growers can choose what would suit them. Some people have got livestock, so they may want to look at doing various methods. Some people have only got arable farming, so they might want to do other ways of fermenting maybe their waste, and also then also maybe or even collectively make their amendments. So that is really exciting. The one thing we know is that most farmers and growers don't have a huge bandwidth to make mistakes. They might think of doing something and try it, and if they fail, they'll put it aside. And that's something we really don't want to happen. We really want to make mistakes. And I have to say we have made many. And us trying to, this is an art and not a science. It's like making sourdough bread, or it's not, or making wine, Mimi. It's like making wine, as you know. It's not the same every year. There's different things that come into play. There's certain rules, but actually suddenly, you're having to sort of react to the situation you have and what ingredients you've got, and with composting. So we're trying to make toolkits as specific as possible to make it as easy as possible for people, so that they know what the best most efficient, cost-effective kit is that they can use. And so by doing that, hopefully either people can come and see these different methods, or we're hopefully going to be able to put them into a digital format somehow so that we can send it out to people, or people can, we're just not quite sure how that's going to work yet, how to teach people at scale, as simply as possible. But as soon as we get really, concrete results on farms at scale, you'll be hearing from us.
That's very exciting. It is, making connections, I think, is one of the greatest opportunities we have right now, because there are so many people who have in their own system figured out something remarkable, but nobody has the time to go out and say, hey, I've done this thing. I think it's kind of cool. I'm not really sure, and everybody's shy, especially people who work on the land and don't talk to people all day. And I think that is such an opportunity. And I'm so grateful for you, because every day that I talk to another person or meet another organization or there's so much great work being done, and we could all be so much better to just know more about what other people are doing. And you feel so much better and safer when you know you're not working alone in a vacuum. And I just love that. I love you for that.
Oh, well, and if there are any of your listeners that are doing things, we would love to hear from them.
Good.
Yeah, a call or an email or anything. As you say, connecting and building this movement is really important. And often a lot of the stuff isn't new. This has been happening. It's about just gathering it and having sort of, supporting people and making change. It feels very scary for a lot of people to give up maybe bringing in chemicals and fertilizers and things. And especially this whole system's been around for sort of 40, 50 years. It feels like that's what's normal. And so having something that's going to take that place, that's and that you feel supported in doing so.
And nourished by, No, I think we talk about it all the time, that there's a real barrier of support. Even knowing that things are getting slightly worse every day, if you don't feel like you're supported with any other decision path, it can be very heartbreakingly impossible, I think, for a lot of farmers to imagine doing things a different way, because there is so much at stake. And a lot of times we only have one more mistake to make before we can't stay on our farms anymore. And so I think that just holding space for the support and creating opportunities for people to see that there is support out there, and that there are opportunities to learn and be confident that somebody's tried this before. I'm not the first one. I also am the biggest thing that I share is all the mistakes that I made. So I can just tell you right now that this doesn't work. At least it didn't work for me. And I think the more we do that, and the more vulnerable we are when we come, together to talk about how to heal the land, and making that our priority it's a beautiful thing. And I know that we're getting close to your next call. So I would love just to give you a couple minutes to talk about what do you want people to hear from you? What do you want people to think more about, or what do you wish that I had asked that we didn't quite get to?
Oh, golly. Well, I think you've been really brilliant. You've asked lots of wonderful questions. But I think for us, and it sounds really crazy, but we have this big vision that actually together, if we start activating our soils and getting them going. And the thing is a lot of people find that really overwhelming, but actually, it's actually not us. It's nature can do it. What we have to do is just give her what she needs. We need to support her. And then, nature is so much more sophisticated than us, so much more clever. And if we, make sure that we get some air into the soil, we get something growing in the soil, and that that you feed the soil to begin with the good things, then it will start getting into balance and will start healing itself. So not feeling overwhelmed that you have to do everything, but basically what we want is that we passionately believe, even if, as Henry said before, if you've got a pot or you've got 100,000 acres, you can make a difference. And if we all do it, if we all get our land, our soil cycling and drawing down carbon out of the atmosphere and growing nutrient-dense food, that we can make a huge difference.
And actually, even if you don't even have a pot, you can make a difference as a consumer. We're all buying food every day. And one of the things we wanted to really stress in our book, Soil to Table, was that actually, if you choose who you choose to buy your food from will have a direct effect on the soil. And if you can support those people that are doing the right thing by the land, wonderful growers, wonderful farmers that we've connected to, and really particularly actually during COVID, we really started to do that, to really look down at our local area. And you can actually really make a difference by making good, small, little decisions every.
Wonderful. So if people want to find you, what's the best way for them to find you and interact with your work?
Probably
the book.
We've got
sure.
a website.
Check out the book.
We've got a website that we've just do ourselves. It's really sort of homemade and tinny, but we have a lot of stuff on there.
We have a newsletter.
It's beautiful.
And we would love emails, studio@thelandgardeners. And watch this space, because I think something called Soil is coming out in the spring, which perhaps we could let you know, and then you could let your listeners know.
But that will come through our website as well. Yeah. So, very old-fashioned website, or Instagram. We seem to be, we pop along on Instagram, so they can follow us on that.
Excellent. We will link to all of your places. And ladies, it's been such a pleasure to finally speak with you in person. I've been a big fan for many years, and I would love to someday just walk around a beautiful space with you. And we could stick our hands in a lot of, we could share our compost piles together. That would be a great day. But I really appreciate your time.
No, that's great. Well, hopefully we're going to be in California in
just one state away.
Okay.
I would love to see you when you're in the States. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Frank, thank you for being such a good boy while we were talking. And I wish you the best of luck with the book rolling out and with everything else that's on the horizon for you both. I just really appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, thanks, Mimi.
Thank you so much, Mimi.
Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Have a great evening. Bye-bye. And even though all of you won't have the benefit of seeing the video of our Zoom call, I just want to say that the puppy really made the whole thing. And I really appreciate the time that we got with Bridget and Henrietta, and I hope you enjoyed that as well. And you will look for their work. The book just came out, and it is absolutely stunning. They have more than one book. Check them all out. Also, look at their courses and online workshops. I think that there's something really powerful about farmers, people who are, constantly growing food, maybe exploring just the concept of adding more beauty, and many of us understand the co-benefits of having flowers in our food gardens, but this is really kind of next level beautyscaping. So if you want just to feed your eyes and your soul, check out their Instagram. It's really something. And I will end with a quote from someone who says it better than I think I could. And that's that this is Patrick Kinmonth for American Vogue, said, "With their instinctive flair, Elworthy and Courtauld established cutting gardens that bring the deep poetry of organic flowers to their enthusiastic customers. And would that we could all be their enthusiastic customers, but the fact is, we can all bring this kind of beauty into our own spaces. So I hope you're inspired to do that. Thank you to the magicians behind the scene, always, for editing and making this polished and presentable. It's a challenge with Mimi, I know. So, Dr. Professor, the man behind the curtain, thank you ever so much. Thank you, Jackson. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, co-hosts, everyone at the Market Garden Podcast. And, of course, thank you, listeners.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Real quick, some things that we have going on. Here on my own farm, I'm continuing with the grafted tomato project I started last year. And I find that if you're willing to have, maybe a few losses, it's not that bad of a job and it doesn't require perfect conditions. I mean, that would be nice, obviously, but I can bust out somewhere around 50 or more plants per hour on my own and heal them in the closet where our hot water heater is. Grafting slows the whole process of starting tomatoes yourself down considerably, seemingly a week or more just for that recovery period. So you do have to account for that in your planting schedule. But I loved their performance last year for our grafted tomatoes. And so I'm going to try and keep comparing them to ungrafted plants until I get bored doing it. Speaking of that project, you can see the process in the video I did on grafting last year at our YouTube channel, which itself is going strong again with new content for the 2024 growing season. We just put up a potato production video and found some interesting stuff in the research that may be worth checking out. Also, we posted a recent farm tour video with Wild East Farm that we visited. They're outside of Asheville. We did that in early March. Very cool farm. Find that channel by searching No-Till Growers on YouTube. Hannah and I announced our on-farm no-till field days for 2024 here at Rough Draft Farmstead in Central Kentucky. Tickets are limited because space is limited here. So check those out if you want to come see my farm. Link is in the show notes. And also linked in the show notes is our shop where you can find my book, The Living Soil Handbook, and hats and other merch. Buying those things through us helps to support our work and helps keep this information free and open to anyone. Alternatively, you can join a whole bunch of new supporters through patreon.com/no-till-growers. And not only do you get a bunch of discounts from various companies on seeds and footwear and all sorts of other goodies, but on discounts on things like the events that No-Till Growers has, like the one at my home farm. That Patreon page, though, is the absolute lifeblood of our work, and we dearly appreciate you. And at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs this week to Chris Yates, Sean at All About the Garden, Stephen Smith, and Cameron Prybull. Big thank you to everyone who supports us in whatever way that you can. We so greatly appreciate you all. Otherwise, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week. Bye.